dagegen, die sagen, weil die Zeiten schwierig sind, muss der Sozialstaat zurückgefahren werden. Das Gegenteil ist richtig, das Gegenteil ist der Fall.
Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right.
Thank you so much, Alke. I'm going further now with Daniel Bertossa. So nice to have you with us. You are from PSI, der internationalen der öffentlichen Dienste. Daniel, herzlich willkommen. Wir machen es genauso. I ask you the question in English and afterwards I'll give a short summary. Just tell us, what are your focuses in the public services? Yesterday we talked about our big strike engagement we had in the public services in Germany in this winter and spring. And I wonder, is that an international movement that we can see?
Thanks, and it's great to be here as well. Our Congress's theme is people over profit in a world of multiple crises. And we have all experienced the COVID pandemic, and a lot of the public sector workers and public service workers have really sacrificed to keep everybody safe, particularly in the healthcare sector and the care sector, but also in waste and transport and other areas. And that is a crisis that I think all workers have felt. But as we exit from that crisis, there are other crises that we now realise we're going to have to deal with. The climate crisis, for example, is affecting everybody. We're seeing digitalisation disrupt everybody. And because of the model of the global economy, we also have a crisis of inequality. We're seeing wages going down, we're seeing inflation go up, energy prices going up. And all of these crises, to solve them, require really two things. One is to have well-funded public services and a strong democratic inclusive state, and the other is to stop the corporate power that's blocking the progress to make the climate transition, or for them to pay their taxes so that these public services can be well funded. And what we're seeing is that public service workers, who were called heroes and often were applauded in the last couple of years, and many promises were made. In fact, a lot of those promises have come to nothing. A lot of the aid that was given supposedly to support these workers has been captured by the large corporations. They've funneled the profits off to dividends or put them into tax havens. And the public service workers who are facing rising cost of living, suppressed wages, and just unprepared to provide the services and support that the community needs, are really angry about that fact. And it's happening in Germany. We've seen strikes in a range of areas, in healthcare and in local government, in other public services, and that's a trend that's happening all over the world as these workers are saying, we're angry that the promises that were made to us when we were sacrificing for the community now aren't being repaid. And I think also what we're seeing is a lot of support for those workers from the community. Workers who are in the private sector, who perhaps took for granted some of the public services that were educating their children, transporting them from one place to another, keeping them safe, looking after their old people and their children. And I think that a lot of workers have realised that without those public services, they are not as safe, and their quality of life is not what it should be. So our members in Germany, but also in other parts of the world, are angry, and they're getting a lot of support from the rest of the workforce.
Genau. Daniel berichtet uns, dass das, was wir in Deutschland erleben, dass die öffentlichen Dienstkolleginnen und Kollegen den Laden am Laufen gehalten haben während der Pandemie. Er hat gesagt, sie sind geopfert worden, um die Gesellschaft aufrechtzuerhalten, um uns zu pflegen, wenn wir krank geworden sind. Sie opfern sich, um unsere Kinder zu unterrichten. Und der Wert und die Rolle dieser öffentlichen Dienste ist während Corona so deutlich zutage getreten. Das ist das, was wir immer damit bezeichnen, wie unter einem Brennglas hat man diesen Wert des öffentlichen Dienstes erkannt. Das ist natürlich kein nationales Phänomen. Das findet überall auf der Welt statt. Corona war eine Pandemie, also internationale Erkrankungen machen überall diese Entwicklung auch möglich. Die Entwicklung eines neuen Selbstbewusstseins der Kolleginnen und Kollegen im öffentlichen Dienst. Und so sind wir auch da Teil einer starken internationalen Bewegung, was die Rolle und die Bedeutung des öffentlichen Dienstes angeht. which role is the role of taxes worldwide? You mentioned that you are fighting for a wealth tax, a worldwide wealth tax. Eine Vermögenssteuer, eine weltweite Vermögenssteuer ist der Ansatz der internationalen des öffentlichen Dienstes. How try you to achieve this wealth tax?
Well, the wealth tax is absolutely achievable and it's required. The estimations are that there are over 30 trillion US dollars stashed in tax havens, and all of that money has essentially been stolen from the public coffers of all the countries in the world, and shamefully about 10 trillion comes from the global south. So we often hear about the need for aid and the need to support Africa and some of these developing countries, but at the same time as providing that support, more than double the amount is flowing out of those countries and into tax havens, often in Europe, Switzerland, Luxembourg, the Netherlands sometimes, and so cracking down on those tax havens is essential, both to ensure we've got the public services that are well funded in richer countries like Germany, but also to ensure that the countries that are facing really critical development challenges don't have their own resources robbed from them.
But where would be the place to establish a worldwide wealth tax? I mean, you can't tell the Netherlands to raise taxes for people in Africa. That's very difficult, isn't it?
No, that is very difficult. But one of the problems with tax policy is it's like wage competition. If you allow one workplace to have lower wages, then they get an advantage and everybody's wages are forced down. And so tax cooperation must be global. We must ensure that the tax havens raise their tax rates, that they stop being secrecy jurisdictions, and we also need to establish a global tax body. We have global bodies for health, the World Health Organization, we've got global bodies for trade, we even have a global football federation, but at the moment we don't have a global tax body, and there are important discussions at the United Nations that will take place next week to establish a global tax body, and that's absolutely essential if we're going to have tax cooperation and not tax competition.
Es sei nicht möglich zu schreiben, morgen braucht Antifa. Wir haben das gefixt, morgen braucht uns, morgen braucht Antifa. Und wir freuen uns, wenn ihr euch mit einem guten Statement in diesem Sinne beteiligt. Und ich freue mich sehr, euch morgen alle wiederzusehen. Und dann gucken wir mal, was die Wahlen gebracht haben und wie es hier in unserem Raumschiff Kongress weitergeht. Bis morgen. Tschüss.